Okay, everybody, I'd like to call the Health, Safety, and Sanitation Committee to order. The number one thing and the only thing we have on our agenda tonight is updates from the police, fire, and sanitation departments for the 2021 project reviews. And I want to preference this by the budgets that's already been passed for 2021. Anything that you've already been approved for, this does not affect this. What I'd like is an update of things that are going to transpire and for the rest of this year, and things that you would like to see for 2022. But this is going to give us plenty of time for all council members to digest your proposals for things that are already not in the budget, digest it before the budget process actually starts. And the budget process starts this Wednesday. So I'll have Chief Kenny go first. Chief?
Sure, thank you. As you see, I passed out our year-end report. That's the 2020 year-end report, if you want to just read that at your leisure. First thing I'd like to go over is staffing and give you the status of our staffing at the police department right now. Currently, we're at 38 full-time officers. We're authorized at 39. And this is from the retirement of Officer Wessner. Now, his position as a school resource officer at the high school was filled. However, we're still short that one officer, so we are putting on a civil service test. We requested that last week at the Civil Service Commission meeting for a patrol officer's test, so we're going to schedule that, and we're working on the announcement language for that as well. This next coming school year, we're also planning on adding a officer who will act as a school resource officer as well as a DARE instructor. We will move, currently we have one officer in the high school full-time and one officer who splits his time between Root Middle School and Claggett. We will be sending that officer full-time to Claggett, it's Officer Rowland, and we'll be adding an officer who will cover Root Middle School and will teach DARE in all our elementary schools. With that move, I would like to use the McDAC funding that we've been getting for the past 2 years to backfill a position for an officer. I have several positions that I want to talk about this evening, and I want to make it very clear that none of these positions will be paid for by income tax revenue. These are all outside revenue sources for these projects and these positions that I'd like to discuss. Specifically, to backfill the additional SRO that we're going to be adding to Root Middle School. In 2019, McDAC awarded us $33,569 for school resource officers. In 2020, they awarded us $94,000 for school resource officers, for a total of $127,000 roughly. We have not expended any of those funds. None of those funds have been appropriated into our budget. So they've just sat in the 106 fund currently. We filed a request for McDAC grant this year in the amount of $276,000. Likely will not receive that much. However, I would estimate that we'll receive at least 120. That's a conservative estimate. Plenty to pay for that officer that we would like to add, as well as the $127,000 that are existing that we have not spent or budgeted. So that's would account for that one officer to backfill the school resource officer. I would like to also fill the 2 Lafayette positions that we discussed when we took over policing in Lafayette pursuant to the contract that we entered into. We entered into that agreement in 2018. That year we collected $101,000 from that pass-through levy, and that was revenue, again, that was not spent. It's in the 106 fund. It was never appropriated over into our budget. In 2019, we took in $263,000 of revenue from the pass-through levy for Lafayette. Again, none of that was spent. None of that was appropriated into our budget. In 2020, we took in $391,000 for the revenue for Lafayette. And that's a grand total of $755,000 that we have not spent. It has not been appropriated into our budget. So I would like to do that now and add those 2 patrol officer positions so that we could take advantage of that funding and enhance our service by adding those 2 additional officers. So essentially, we would go from our authorized strength of 39 to 42. And that's an update on the staffing and kind of the direction I'd like to go in 2022 for staffing. I can move on to some projects that we have ongoing. Our locker room remodels are nearing completion. We're just waiting for the lockers to be delivered, and that's for the female locker room and the male locker room. Our phone recording and radio recording software project is complete, and that's in place. And we also replaced 8 of our cruiser tablets, and this was all money from the CARES Act that we received here at the city. Some projects that we're still in the process of researching is the video wall project and dispatch. And what that will be is we're consolidating all of our video feeds, which is a tremendous amount of video feeds now with the park cameras, the parking deck cameras, the building cameras. We're all consolidating those into one video wall monitor rather than the multiple 50-inch screen TV monitors that we have scattered throughout dispatch. So it'll be all very well organized in one central place. We're still in the research phase, but we're getting ready to request funding for that project through council. Dispatch radio consoles, we're still quite a ways out on coming to a decision on which vendor we would go with, which system we would go with. For that, the hang up with that project is the phone systems. I think in the near future, we're gonna have to come up with a solution for the city hall phone systems. And we wanna make sure that those phones will interact properly with whatever radio console we go with. So we're still in the research phase for that as well. Another project we'd like to start this year is a drone program. We currently have 4 officers certified through the FAA to operate drones. There are other agencies here in the county that do currently have drone programs as well. It's fairly common in law enforcement and fire now. We're sort of late to the game. The benefit of that is that the technology is advanced tremendously, so it's good that we waited until the technology is up to par so that it can meet the needs that we have. One of the biggest selling points of the drone program is the thermal capabilities of the drone that will assist with fire operations when they have structure fires or they have commercial buildings that are on fire. A drone can tell exactly where the hot spot is and the behavior of that fire and allow the incident commanders to come up with attack plans for that fire. Also, for search operations, if we have missing kids or elderly walkaways, which we do quite often, or even fleeing suspects, whether it be day or night, we can put that drone up in the air and use the thermal capabilities to detect that heat signature if it's in the woods or going through backyards. But of course, it's especially useful at night when it's pitch black and you can't see. With the thermal capabilities, that almost turns it to daylight, and you can see the heat signatures of the things that you're looking for. We can also use it for crime scene documentation, incident documentation in our detective bureau, storm assessment, traffic assessment management and flow. Use it for special events, crowd management when we can see a perspective from the air that we can't see from the ground. Scene management for any type of search warrants we have or SWAT operations. And we can also use it to access dangerous areas if we have a suspicious package and we don't want to have an officer approach that package. We can send a drone to it, or if they're in the high school, any of the schools, we can send a drone in. Any place that's hazardous where we wouldn't want to send an officer because of whatever event is going on, we can send that drone in and get within inches of whatever we want to look at. So there are several benefits to that program, and that's something that we're looking forward to beginning. And again, we're close to where we'll be approaching council looking for funding for that as well. And again, between this revenue that's from the outside revenue and our carry forward and our CARES Act money, we have plenty of money to support all those initiatives and programs.
Well, thank you, Chief. Mr. Lamb, do you have any questions?
No, I don't really have a question. I guess I would only like to say how looks like you, thanks to the information, looks like a great package you put together, great report, and how fortunate we are to have you as well as other administrators here that are so professional. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And the only thing I want to say, Chief, is thank you for the same thing that Bill just said, but also I'm really excited that we're going to reinstitute the DARE program for our schools. I was against it when it was taken away several years ago. Not so much, I mean, the whole purpose of the DARE program was to teach kids about the dangers of drugs, but it also gave an opportunity for the younger kids to interact with the police officers, same as the school resources in the upper grades, but I felt that was so important. And you gave us all something to think about for the upcoming budget project, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Chief Walters, this is your chance to tell us what's going on in the fire department and what you'd like to see happen for the upcoming budget process.
Okay.
Welcome also.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I just have a few things for you. The first one is relatively minor expense-wise, and we won't have any issue covering it. It's only around $4,000. We're already in the process of doing it, but I felt it was worth mentioning because it is significant to our operations. It deals with our radio capabilities, our current radio capabilities. As you might remember, we purchased a new radio system two years ago, roughly, and that system is best for us, but when we have to leave the city to mutual aid a county department, such as Brunswick, they call us frequently for help. They are on a different radio system than what we are, and so there is an interoperability problem there, which could lead to a safety issue. With the help of Chief Neal in Montville and some others, and Chief Kenny, we were able to determine that our radios are capable of working with both systems and at a very relatively small cost. So just around $4,000 per year, and we're able to get that added and add that capability, which is particularly important now because the entire county, all of the fire departments have taken advantage of a state fire marshal's office grant, and they've all moved to that other radio system that we didn't previously have the ability to use. So anyway, again, it's not anything that the council needs to prepare for. We're doing it, but I felt it was worth mentioning.
Thank you.
The next thing that I have is Medina Fire Station 1 on Reagan Parkway. If you've been there recently, you may have noticed that the parking lot is deteriorating. It has been for several years. It's been patched a few times over the year, but it's beyond that point. It is in need of complete replacement. Just wanted to mention that we're starting the planning process for that, looking at getting bids and things like that for a replacement for that parking lot, with the addition of the 9/11 memorial next door to the fire station now. We have a lot of pedestrian traffic that parks at the fire station parking lot, and there are, relatively large holes that create tripping hazards that we need to, take into account. So I recognize that project is capital in nature and could take some time to identify the funds for and planning. So I just wanted to mention that we're starting to prepare for that. And then the last thing is really just a future down the road here. We would like to, if you're not already familiar, just remind you, the fire department is only staffed, the stations are only staffed Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until midnight. So after midnight and all weekend long on Saturdays and Sundays, there are no firefighters at the stations to respond, so that drastically increases our response time, and periodically that's not favorable. So what we're looking to do is in small steps, as we identify funds and the people to do it, add some expanded staffing hours. So we're not talking about hiring a number of new firemen. We could hire down the road. Most of our new hires are turnkey firefighters. We don't have to invest in their training. They're generally full-time elsewhere, and they just need a bit of an orientation program and a small cost for, uniforms, but we do have that in the budget. So the goal there, the vision is to get to a point where we have more of those hours where we don't have firefighters staffed at the stations covered. So whether we started that, on the weekends or we started with the overnights, that is something that we're looking at right now. We're looking at the numbers and the operating impacts to see what we can accomplish. So we're looking forward to announcing something pretty soon on what we might be able to do there. Long term, the goal hopefully for everyone is that we can get firefighters, part-time firefighters, same model that we're using now, but in the stations, stations 24 hours a day. So we've got the overnight covered. We just had a house fire this morning, early morning. Obviously, there are no firefighters at the station, so we're waiting for the guys to get out of bed, get dressed, drive to the station, get dressed again, and then drive to the fire. I think we could do better than that down the road.
Right.
So long term, that's the plan.
Well, I appreciate you willingness to tackle that problem. And I know the last several months you guys have been extremely busy. But saying that, I thank you and welcome aboard. Mr. Lamb, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just same thing. Thanks. Appreciate the information you provided and your hard work, and glad to have you here.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
For the other council members and the mayor, I'm just going to let Mr. Piccoli go first, and then we'll open it up to the mayor and council members to any questions for the three gentlemen. Or do you want to say something now, Mayor?
Well, I was just going to, while we're talking about fire, I've talked again to Medina Township. I'd like to set up a meeting for Council President Coyne and I to go up to them and talk again about the JED. And I had it arranged, and then they lost one of their trustees.
Right.
So I'm kind of waiting for that process to get fixed up there, and then them to make a determination whether they want me to meet first with one of the trustees and then present to the board, or they want to have like a work session with the three trustees and Council President Coyne. And I only mention it in relation to fire in that we're using the Montville JED for economic development purposes. This may be a revenue source both for Medina Township and for the city of Medina to look at fire expansion in our services. So,
Yeah, thanks for doing that, because in the past it hasn't been successful. Hopefully you guys will be able to knock that. And last but not least, Mr. Piccoli.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. I won't need that much time. Sanitation is a unique department, as you know. We pick up trash traditionally with the two laborers on the back for the most part with respect to residential pickups. With regards to staffing, we have the two supervisors, and we have 9 full-time drivers, 1 full-time laborer, and we're graced with 6 part-timers that work 29 hours, day in and day out, all kinds of weather, with 2 seasonals to fill in as needed. With regard to residential customers, we have 7,570 residents, as well as 1,114 commercial units. Tonnage collected is traditionally split, half residential, half commercial, as well as roll-offs, and you can see that in the paperwork that I supplied right before this meeting.
Right.
Material taken to the CPF, we're at $52. It's gone up. The revised rates that we received, it's slated to increase per year, $1 per ton. Now, granted, that has to go before the Board of Commissioners. It has to be presented by the sanitary engineer, and then it's discussed similar to our council procedure. So, and to be capped in, I believe, 2028 at $59. It is what it is, and that's the rate we pay, and we budget accordingly. And that'll be reflected in our budget as you see that we go forward in May. With regard to the cardboard route, we started that back up in 2019 and 2020, so we saw a big increase in the cardboard route. That's deposited down to CPF. we don't have to pay for disposal of that material. It's dropped off at the sanitary engineers there for no cost. That was about 217 tons that was diverted. Food waste diversion, we worked with a couple of the, like Sandridge outfits similar, and we divert that tonnage. It was about 1,500 tons that didn't go to the landfill. It went to various digesters. We even took it down to the city of Worcester. Our supervisors were good in working with their management team and figuring out what's the best place to take at the lowest cost. So we try to accommodate the customers in that regard. Our yard waste program, as you know, we started in 2017. We've seen a huge increase from 155 tons back in 2017 to last year, 2020, it was 419 tons. Initially, there was not a charge for the material as we brought it to the CPF. Now there's a $21 per ton rate that we're being charged, and we go to Smith Brothers. Regardless whether it's a CPF or a Smith Brothers, that's the charge that we incur for the disposal. Latest numbers, that's about a $60,000 to $70,000 cost that the city pays. We do not charge the residents, as you know, and we feel it's a great service that we're able to provide from April to through November.
Sure.
And we look to continue that as it's grown. Our yard waste program actually is going to start back up here in 2 weeks, so we've received some calls already for some folks that are anxious about getting out. We talked a little bit about the compost units, if you remember, with Councilman Heffinger and Councilwoman Jess Hazeltine here and Bill. We did find out that we would have, if we supply the program, we would have to have a permit through the EPA. So we're trying to work through that. So in other words, folks can have a compost bin on their own and individually compost and not an issue. But if the city is a participant or we're providing units and collecting and involved, it's our understanding there would have to be permitting, which is more red tape. We're looking into that for clarification. That's being vetted. We are brainstorming with some different programs. With our folks, we could virtually set a dumpster to city garage or at the weigh station out of the way and have a pickup or a drop off for residents, right? But and have our folks there to monitor to make sure people aren't dropping off contaminants or things that are not supposed to be collected. The issue and the caveat is, what's the market? You know, are we going to do a glass collection and get that out of the mainstream so we don't have to take it to landfill? Once things get squared away, and I say that tongue in cheek, I don't know how soon that would be with regard to the markets. We can run programs like that, and we have the folks, we have the containers, we can set a part-timer at one of the city garage or whatever venue that we choose. But today's day and age, it's just not there. It's not happening yet. So we're hopeful that that'll change here. It's a huge benefit to have an in-house department. I think council's all in agreement. I know the mayor and I chatted and we talked about it with the tornado, and council was aware. We were able to dispatch our folks immediately, and we collected approximately, actually the fellows collected about 600 yards from our residents and businesses that were affected by the tornado. We didn't charge for that service. Just this weekend, there's a local business that had a freezer issue. They called on Saturday evening, Sunday morning. We were able to dispatch crews yesterday with roll-off containers. Their freezers were out of commission, and our folks responded immediately and are continuing as we speak to mitigate their unfortunate incident. So with that being said, not sure where the curbside recycling is going to go. I defer to John. He's big on recycling here, but at the same time, until things get squared away, maybe from the federal level down to the state, our position is we're not going to spend money at this point in time in buying equipment and carts and implementing something that just isn't quite there yet.
Is that it?
It is pretty close.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank all three of you gentlemen. At this time, Mr. Lamb, you have any questions for?
No, just the one thing I think about the recycling, that we've discussed, but really don't have a lot of options.
Right.
I think what's really encouraging to me is the many ways that we are saving money through diverting, goods, whether it's am I correct, $29 a ton for yard waste? 21 and
Yes.
59 if it's just regular trash, 59 a ton?
52 currently. It'll go to
52.
59 by 2028.
So the difference, and then when you factor in the other things that you're talking about diverting, that really saves us a lot of money, because we must have one of the best sanitation operations anywhere. I mean, we pick up off the curb whatever you put out, and so that money is saved by diverting, whether it's yard waste or food waste or whatever, just enables you to continue an operation that, by having it be a local operation, as you explained, it really speaks well to the idea of community service, because you're able to provide additional community service because you have the people and the equipment on hand. So I appreciate all your comments and all the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you gentlemen just pass along to your staff, as always, I think I can speak for all council members. We appreciate everything that you and your staff do. It doesn't go unnoticed, even though we may not compliment them enough, but it really is appreciated. Is there any council comments from any of the three gentlemen? Mayor, do you have any other comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Sounds like some pretty interesting programs that's going to be happening and exciting, so I thank you, and with that, this meeting's adjourned.
And you're welcome.